while I do this because I'm hearing stuff in the background. That'd be great. Thanks. All right. So let's get right in. The number one problem that we're having, and Vince, can you see my screen? Let me make sure of that first. Yes?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, great. Thanks. Always want to check that. Number one problem we're having is with income is not catching that the year to date is low. All right. And obviously with COVID, people being laid off for COVID or furloughed for COVID, that's obviously happening quite a bit. So we have more of that than we normally would, and it's got to be caught, and it can be a deal killer. And that is the number one issue. So I picked a file where I have low year to date, and I just wanted to go over it with you. So first of all, let's go here. This is the income calc that we should all be using. All right, I put it in the chat last week. I have it. I can email it to you. Just if you don't have it, let me know. It's the simplest one. We used to have several circulating around. Basically, every underwriter kind of used their own. Every processor used their own. Officially, we're supposed to be using this. Okay, I actually brought it with me from another lender who I'll keep quiet right now, but Gina knows who it is. And but I've modified it a little bit. I actually broke the lock on it and modified it because there are a couple things I wanted to change on it. But you'll see here, and just very quick, across the bottom is your type of income. All right, you just go there. We're just going to deal with the non-self-employed, which is hourly or variable, hourly or salary. Okay. Now, it's very, very straightforward. You can fill in this if you want, but the most important things are right here. All right. So what you do is if you fill in from your pay stub, the most recent start date, most recent period end date, it will pop up here, whether it's weekly, biweekly, or monthly. Double check this because very often, depending on how the dates correspond, and if there's a weekend involved, somebody who's paid semi-month might show semi-monthly, but they were paid early and it might show up biweekly. So just be very careful. Look at a couple of pay stubs. So I'm going to pull up this pay stub very quickly, which I should have here, and I do have it here. Go me. All right. And this is my updated pay stubs. But we'll go see here. Now, we have a pay stub here. Now, this was not the pay stub in the file when I underwrote it. I believe it was way back here was the pay stub that I underwrote. We've updated them since. But if this is 9/20 to 9/26, the pay date is 10/2. Now, I just want to also, since we're looking at pay stubs, I just want to remind you that this is the date that you are going to calculate your year-to-date on, okay? This is the date that you can use for your COVID pay stub. So if this was my final pay stub, this pay stub would be good, right? We know that this person is paid biweekly. No, this person's paid weekly. So this person's paid weekly. My pay stub, my COVID pay stub would be good until 10/9, 7 days after this, because 7/9 is the next pay date because this individual happens to be paid weekly. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that to your attention while we're here. But for my year to date, it's 9/26. And if you go over to my, I actually had another pay stub in here. That's 10/3. So let's go look at that. Which one did I use here? Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry. Down here. Okay, as you can see, this is another thing. These are all kind of backwards. If you can, processors, you can help the underwriters a lot. Bring this most recent one. Now, there's 3 in this batch. I can't do anything, but if you could always put this most recent one up here, that would be very helpful because this particular file has a batch of 3. And, I open up this one and think this is the most recent, but now I have to go down to this one, okay? Which I did, but again, it's easy for an underwriter to miss that. They might be going here. All right, so please always bring the most recent to the top. All right, that's number one. Number 2, we have our 10/3 date. All right, so now I'm going to look at my pay stub. And what I see here is I have a 40-hour week here. I'm going to also look to see if I am consistently at 40 hours. All right, I go to this pay stub, and where am I at? 40 hours. I go to this pay stub, where am I at? I'm at 40 hours. So this person, even though they're hourly, I'm going to probably treat them as salary because I have a consistent 40-hour work week, even though they make $28.75 an hour. I mean, I'm salaried, right now, but I have an hourly rate there. That doesn't mean I'm an hourly employee just because I have an hourly rate. Okay. I can see that I'm paid 40 hours every week. Now, the person isn't salaried, they're overtime. I get that. So they're not salaried, but this person consistently shows 40 hours a week, right? So that's good to know. 40 hours a week at $28.75 an hour. So on my thing, I can put in, right, which I did here. As you can see, I can come down to the hourly income bracket, and I can put in my data, and that should be $49.83.33 per month. Okay, so now I'm going to compare this to I'm going to take my data and I'm going to compare it to what hourly should be, and then I'm going to compare it to what the pay period is, as opposed to what it should be. And if you look, I got 1150 here. I got 1150 here, so that's all consistent. My hourly rate hasn't changed. My base is 1150 every week. So over in my pay stub, my period salary is consistently at 1150. If my periodic pay was variable, all right, because maybe my hours fluctuated, all right. If my periodic salary was variable, I would leave this blank, or sometimes I even type in variable, because I don't have a periodic salary, all right. In that case, I'm going to rely on the year to date, which I'm going to follow income guidelines. So where do I get my year to date? Well, I get it from my pay stub, number one. Okay, so I'm going to go over to my pay stub, and I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to get my year to date. And just very quickly, let me remind everyone that when you're calculating your year to date from your pay stub, one other large mistake is that people use this amount and pop it in. This amount is wrong because it includes all kinds of other income. All right, whatever these two are, I have no idea. All right, nor do I really care. I know they're not base salary. What I'm looking for here on year to date is base salary. This one's very easy. These are something unusual, and this is overtime. All right, you will sometimes see, 15 different types of income on your pay stub, and it's very hard often, and not always an exact science, to pull out the base income year to date. All right. My rule is, if in doubt, don't, right? If you're not sure that it's base income, don't include it in year-to-date base income, okay? So my year-to-date base income here was easy. It's 35,365.38. None of this applies, okay? So I'm going to use this number. Sometimes I'll have 3 or 4 items here that qualify as year-to-date base income. So just so you know, other things that get added into year-to-date base income are PTO, vacation, sick leave. Those are all part of base income, right? Vacation, obviously. So sometimes I might have 6 lines here that I can all include in year-to-date base income. All right. And then sometimes there might be 6 others that I can't. So I might have 12 or 13 lines here, and I have to go through, and I either have to add up all the ones that I can use, or take this number and back out all the ones that I can't use. It can be time consuming, but it's extremely important to get an accurate year to date from your pay stub. Okay. Now, before I move on, any questions on that? Okay. I want to just make sure everyone's clear on that. If you have a question, just chime in. All right. So make sure you're using the proper year-to-date base. So in this case, it's easy: 35,365, 38, and 35,365 around that. So now what we saw here, and this is why we use this as an example. Look here. His current pay is $11.50. That matches his hourly rate at 40 hours at $49.83. Okay. Look at my year-to-date average based on my pay stub. Extremely low by $1,100. All right. So when I originally underwrote this loan, now before I do anything else, let me not get ahead of myself. I also have a VOE here. Okay. But let me open up the VOE. Okay. And it confirms, if I look at my VOE confirmed, now this was 1127. Now my VOE had 58,509 through 11/27, right? But my pay stub only had 35,365 as of 10/3. So he went from 35 to 58. There was a problem here in that my pay stub and my VOE didn't quite jive out. Okay. So what I did was I always go by the more limiting factor. Written VOEs are often more trustworthy than work number VOEs. Okay. And in our next example, if I have time, I'll get to our work number VOE. This has also been whited out. See that? All right. So I noticed that you can see that there was whiteout here, and they wrote over the whiteout. So I pretty much discarded this year to date here because it was whited out, and I went by the pay stub. So in the end, what happened here, just so you know, to bring you up to the end, I conditioned for, all right, an explanation of what this low year to date was, and I actually originally suspended this loan, all right, because I had nothing to indicate what was going on here with this, with why this was low. And without an explanation, I have to use this, okay? There's nothing I can do. Now, as processors, if you catch this, and you should catch it the minute you get your pay stub, because the minute you get your pay stub, you should be plugging this in to check your year to date. All right. As a processor, you should have, or a loan officer, you should have fired off a request to the employer to explain this right away. All right. Because this right here got this loan suspended. Okay. And then, it took a week or two to get it back. So when you see this, address it right away. This is the number one thing you're going to look for is low year to date, especially in the year of COVID, right? So in the end, what happened was I got a letter of explanation that they changed payroll providers. All right. And there was a new payroll provider that was here for a couple of months, and that's fine. And then I just put a comment in the thing here. Year to date is low due to change in payroll provider. See letter of explanation from the employer, which is in the file. They brought payroll back in-house in March of 2020. All right. It also explains why in 2019, this borrower had two different W-2s for the same job. All right, which I also made them explain, which made sense now. In 2019, okay, they contracted the payroll out mid-year, made a change. They apparently didn't like that or weren't happy with it or couldn't afford it. So in March of 2020, they brought it back in-house. Everything is explained, okay, and now that explains the low year-to-date average. In this particular case, because of that reason, I was able to use 49.8333 as my qualifying income. I was able to use that, and I'm just going to double check here. And you see, so I was able to use that income, all right? But as the file was presented to me, I was not able to use it because this glaring inconsistency was not addressed. And as an underwriter, I can condition for just about anything, but I can't condition for income to qualify unless I see evidence that it's there. And this actually initially looked like it was a COVID gap, right? It's got all the telltale signs of a COVID gap, right? But it was, and if it was a COVID gap and he's hourly, I might not have been able, I might have had to average it in. But because he's consistently at 40 hours, but more to the point, because it was not a COVID layoff, all right, there was no layoff at all. The guy had no gap, okay? I'm okay because the year-to-date average is low because of the payroll, okay? But this was very important. This could have been addressed up front, all right? And then you could have saved yourself, and on other loans like it, I'm saying, you can save yourself weeks of delays and a suspense, okay? So any questions on that right there, all right? All right, but that's how you just plug your numbers in here. All right, you advise if we're using year-to-date 2019 averaging income, how is that completed on this form? Okay, good question. All right, what you will do is if you are averaging the first question is when do I have to average income? I have to average income when I have variable hourly income, all right? If I have consistent hourly income, which I kind of have here, right? I have consistent 40 hours a week, and my year-to-date supports consistent 40 hours a week. I don't have to. I treat that person as a salary borrower, even though I know they get overtime and they're hourly, but I'm okay. I also will look, which I did on this, that to see if the prior W-2 supports the current income, which it did. But to Nicole's question, what happens if I have hourly income and the hours are all over the place? So let's say I go to my pay stub, right? And this pay stub shows 42 hours, and this pay stub shows 37 hours, and this pay stub shows, 35 hours, okay? We're all over the board on hours, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to go here, we're going to take our year to date. Our year to date is going to go into this, and that's going to give me it's going to go here on my year to date. All right. In that case, there is no place here to put in the, hang on, I got a call coming in. Thanks. Okay. There's no place here to average the current income 2 years plus year to date. All right. What you would do is you would do that. You would make your notes down here, and you would take the prior income from your BOE, okay, which would be over here. So in this case, if I wanted to do that, I'd take this number, and the number of months on my year to date. If you're not sure of the number of months of your year to date, all right, what factor to use, this income calc will tell you once you put in this date right here. This date, as long as you fill this date in, it will tell you the factor to multiply by. So in this case, I'm going to take the prior 2 years off my VOE, and I'm going to take this year to date, and I would, if I was going to average this, I would divide that by 24 plus 9 point, so 33.0968. All right. Now, the other thing you can do, if you don't want to do that math and go through all that trouble, all right, you can just use these other boxes for like the overtime income, which is you can put this number if you wanted to into your overtime income, even though it's not overtime, but this is a calculator for you. So hypothetically, I take 35,365. Right? And then I could go to my WVOE. If you don't want to do the math, longhand, I could do 62,295 and 58,317. So 62,295, and what was it? 58,317. Okay, and that would give me, that's doing the math for you. I just used this box to do it. It's not overtime, but I used it to do the math. So if you don't trust yourself and you don't want to, on your calculator or a pencil and paper, you can do it right here. Okay, so my 2 year plus year to date average here is 47. That's low. Well, why is that low? Well, we know that's low because we know this is low, right? All right, so if now let me just bring up a good point. Let's say this is low. This was low due to COVID. Okay, if this was low due to COVID, all right, and then I would be going to a lower number. Okay, and I would use my year to date, because even though I'm doing 2 years plus year to date, if the year to date is lower than the 2 year plus year to date, I use the lower. Okay. So that's why. So that's a good question. How would you do that? So again, you can either do the 2 year plus year to date base on your own, or you can plug it into one of these to get your answer. I wouldn't leave it there because this is not overtime income. But I have opened up this so that I can change these headings if I want. So let's suppose you weren't using overtime, but I wanted to change that heading. I could do base 2 year average, right? And then I could just change this word to WVOE base, and I could change that year to WVOE base, right? if I wanted to show the underwriter exactly what I'm doing, okay? Now, I've just changed this to a base 2-year average, all right? That's fine, you can do that, all right? And all you got to do is change your headings, all right? So you've just changed this from an overtime box to a 2-year base average box, all right? But again, you'll notice this would also be a trigger to you. This is lower than it should be. This is lower than current. Why? But this is your big trigger right here, okay? So that's the one to look at. That's your big trigger. Now, this is going along. I have another file that's a little more complicated where this is variable. I don't know if we want to go that long. Let me just show you and we can talk more about it maybe next week. It's a different loan. Let me pull it up here real quick. No, I don't want to save this. Thank you. And we'll get rid of this, and we'll get rid of this, and we'll get rid of this loan. Nope. All right. Let me pull up this loan, Reyes, very quickly for you. This loan, I won't go into it in detail, but this loan was far more complicated. And it's a good example of what you can run into a lot. Okay, so, and let me pull up my income calc on this too. So hold on. No. All right, it's not letting me. Hold on. No. There we go. All right, now this loan, this is one that I meant. This is an example where he had variable income. So I'm going to get the pay stub on this and show you what I mean. Because this is what you're going to run into, and this is where underwriters can often nail you because it can often be missed. Okay, if I go to my pay stub, okay, and who am I looking at here? This is Ramon. Ramon's pay stub. All right, this guy's a healthcare worker, and this is very common in healthcare workers. You can look at this here, sorry. All right, and you'll notice he has 71 hours. He used some PDO, okay? But then he has a night differential, an evening differential, a weekend differential. This is very common for healthcare workers. The hours change and they're variable, right? So in this particular example, there's no way I can put anything into this field that's consistent at all, okay? Okay, so I'm not going to, but I am going to pay. We'll talk about that in a second. And his hourly rate was 17.50. I sound like a robot. I don't know. Did it just start?
You just stopped. You're good now.
You sound better
Okay.
now. Yeah.
All right. That's weird. Something happened. Okay. Maybe a bad connection. Thanks. All right. So let me know if it happens again. Okay. So this I used his lowest base hourly rate. So check that out here to be conservative. All right. He was 1751 was supposedly his hourly. I got his rate off of his VOE. Hang on. Again, what I do when I underwrite a loan, I go to the VOE first, just to see what they have. All right. Okay, so look at here. His VOE, which I always go to first, just to get an idea, his work number was 1751. That's his base hourly. Now this said every 2 weeks he gets 92 hours. So this said he made 1751. He worked 46 hours per week, and he gets paid biweekly. All right. So when I go punch in, so I punched that number in. I took this right off of the VOE. And if he truly worked 40 hours a week at his base income, he would make $34.90. Okay? All right. But when I went to his pay stub, because remember, this is his base hourly, and I know that he gets shift differential. So if I only use this, I would be cheating this borrower, right? Because the shift differential is still part of his base income. This is a classic example where I have to use the year to date. Now I had to go back here on this file, and I had to go back to his pay stub. And then I had to go down this entire list, and I had to say, all right, what can I use of this year to date, this 42,275? How much of it can I consider base income? Okay. All right. Well, required PDO, yeah, that's base income. All right, that's your time off. It's part of your regular pay. Incentive pay is not. And actually, I found out that the incentive pay here matched what the VOE was calling bonus income, pretty much almost identical. If you look at the bonus, it was 2090, and then back year to date, and here on his pay stub, it was 2050. So I'm thinking that incentive pay was bonus, so we're not counting that in the year to date. Non-discretionary bonus, not counting that in the year to date. Overtime, that is not base income, okay? But now, holiday differential, that is base income when his regular hours fell on a holiday. All right, so I counted that. Christmas bonus, sorry, that's a bonus. All right, but this differential, night differential, PDO, and regular, these were all regular. So I used this, and this, okay? And I came up with this, okay? So that, to me, and this is my date of my pay stub right up here. This is your magic number right here for calculating year-to-date income. So I took, this was my year-to-date that I can call base income as of this date, and the computer spits it out and said I made 3604.80. All right. Now I always compare that real quick, and I won't take up too long, to what my VOE said. Now my VOE had a year-to-date of 33,218.50, right? As of this date up here, all right? And my VOE will usually give you a slightly different year-to-date monthly average, just because of the way these dates work up here. I always calculate this by hand, and sometimes if you want to, and I have done this, I will open up a new, either a new one of these, or that's usually what I'll do, and I'll title it income from the WVOE, right? I'll put WVOE income here, and I'll just do this, and I'll put in the VOE date so I can see how the VOE year-to-date compares with the pay stub year-to-date, all right? So what I did that here, you'll see my comments down here. The VOE states $17.51 an hour at 46 hours per week, which is $34.90.32, which is right here, okay? The VOE year-to-date base, 33,218.50 as of 11/7, okay? That was the VOE. Notice the VOE year-to-date base, 33,218.50 as of 11/7. My pay stub base was 35,234 as of 10/24. So this is a more recent VOE year-to-date base, but this is a work number year-to-date VOE base. And as an underwriter, I find the work number data to be somewhat unreliable. I think you probably all found the same thing. But just as a comparison, per the VOE, as of 11/7, and that's 10.211 months, is 3253.20 was his VOE base. Okay? All right? Now, because his year-to-date VOE was at a later date, 11/7, than his pay stub year-to-date was as of 10/24, I ran with the 11/7. I also ran with the 11/7 because this was a lower number by $200. Now, maybe if I needed this number to qualify, I might go back and see if find a way that I could use this. But keep in mind that the 3490 was not supported by the VOE. All right. So I use the VOE, so this is the most accurate, most conservative base income calculation. The prior year base on the VOE supports this. And what I simply did is I went and double checked to make sure that on my VOE, all right, my prior year base income, when I divided it by 12, was pretty supportive of the current year, right? And it's almost identical. It will come out when I divide it by the end of this year. This was as of November. It's actually going to be a little bit higher here, which is fine. So I double checked that. So basically, I said my bonus on the VOE listed as incentive pay on the pay stub. I did use my bonus. All right. Now, I'm not going to get into bonus right now. I'm actually doing a bonus training for my junior underwriters. I'll probably be doing that on Friday. Bonus income gets a little tricky because there's several different ways to calculate bonus income. I won't get into that right now. This was easy because the bonus is on the pay stub and it's paid incrementally. So when the bonus is on the pay stub and it's paid incrementally, whether monthly or quarterly, all right, you can pop it right in here, put your prior year, and get your bonus. That's the easy way. When it gets tricky is when it's paid annually, right? And I'll go into that later. But if it's incremental and it's on the pay stub, I can pop it in here. So I did show a monthly, just so you know, well, and I'll wrap up. On his pay stub, we did show a bonus, which I called incentive pay of $20.50, which reasonably matched the VOE. I actually could have added Christmas bonus, but that's a little shaky. And I then took his prior bonuses on the VOE right here, okay, bonus income for the prior years, and I simply plugged this in. Now notice I did not plug in the year-to-date bonus into my income calc from the VOE because the date on my income calc was not the date of the VOE. It is true that I could have maybe used this higher number and plugged it in, but then I would have had to do a new calculation. But this was fine. That's all I needed. Remember, I took the bonus off of the pay stub because the pay stub is calculating the bonus off of this date. All right. If I had gone and used the VOE and then punched in the VOE date, it's very likely that my bonus income, it says commission, it's really bonus. Let me change that right now. Okay. It's very likely that it would have come out the same. Okay. He might have received a little bit more bonus, but it's not going to be that much different. So I was able to use my bonus, and actually on this loan, that bonus income came in quite handy because look where I am. I'm at 45.3. Without that bonus income, I could be starting to push a ratio, and I don't know where the limit was here. But I do know where the limit was here. This was a USDA loan, and I'm dead at 46. So that bonus income actually made the deal. Okay. So any other questions? I know it's been a while, and I didn't want to be more than a few minutes. Any questions on this? It can get very complicated, and I wanted to show you how complicated it can get. This is about as complicated as it gets right here, but hopefully it gave you a little guidance. And again, if you're ever processing one of these things and you're not sure how to fill this in or where to do the calculation, just zip me a chat or zip me an email. I'll be happy to hop in and look at your loan. Okay. But with that, I'm going to send the control back to Vince if there's no other questions. Oh, hold on.